Welcome to the Zentangle Project Pack series. My name is Martha.
And I'm Molly.
Hi, Molly.
Hello. So today we are working on project pack number 14. This particular project pack was inspired with a collaboration between us and our friends at Sakura of America, and we really wanted to create a project pack during the month of May, which is Mental Health Awareness Month. We felt it was really important to honor this month and come up with a project pack that really celebrated how important creativity is. And so we've created this really special item in our project pack that really honors the artist within and celebrates creativity in everyone. And so we're pretty pumped to do that with all of you.
We will be working with the materials that are in your project pack. And if you have one in front of you, then you have this beautiful book that we've crafted. It has wonderful quotes and some inspiring prompts that will, just kind of get your artistic juices flowing. If you don't have this lovely book, then please follow along anyway with whatever materials that you have. You can buy the project packs on our website or from certain certified Zentangle teachers. We always encourage you to follow along with whatever you have at home.
We do, and we have always been sort of pleasantly surprised with all of the creations that people come up with, whether they have the same materials as us or not.
So here we have this array of drawing tools, and for this particular page that we've chosen to work on, we are going to work with this beautiful warm gray jelly roll. Just love the
I know, I've been really digging it,
and
like
that sort of
so
soft, gentle colors, neutral tones. It's really nice. So we're going to be working with that. And for today's video lesson, we've decided to work on this page here with the ink stains here and with this quote that we both sort of thought it was a great way to get going. And this is, "Life is the art of drawing without an eraser," which is pretty powerful symbolism,
right?
Yeah. And this page particularly, which was inspired by, well, something that perhaps my mother wanted to erase when it happened, and instead she learned how to embrace it.
Yeah, and we have a whole project pack actually dedicated to the no mistakes philosophy and the inspiration behind these ink stains. And you can learn more about that in that particular project pack. But today we're going to talk about just drawing on top of two different colored page colors and using this gray jelly roll. And we're going to talk a little bit about how you can pull sort of some of those Zentangle philosophies into your everyday life. And the truth is, there are no erasers in life.
No,
and so
gotta work with what you got.
Gotta work with what you got, yeah. For sure. So we're gonna be a little playful with this book, aren't we, Martha? We're gonna flop it upside down.
Yeah, I think right off the bat, we're gonna turn this upside down and we're gonna start working from this top corner, kind of as the ink is seeping into this paper. And we're going to work with this neutral color and kind of enjoy the effects it has on both tones. So I'm going to start us off with a Tangle. It's one of my favorites and I do use it often. And we're kind of going back to its roots, if you will. Remembering that it was drawn a little bit differently when it first came about. So the Tangle we're going to work with today is called Vertigo. And it is a playful name.
It's an OG for sure. It's a Tangle that's been around since the beginning. And Martha was saying to me that she remembers learning this when she came to seminar in like 2005 or something like that.
No, I came to CZT too, and that was in, I believe, 2009.
Oh, 2009. Sorry, yeah, I got that wrong.
Yeah, 2009. We're going to do this sort of original version of that Tangle. So we're going to start our big Vertigo sprig, which definitely is resonant of a rosemary plant, and we often refer to that as an inspiration.
Or even any kind of pine.
Or any kind of evergreen, yeah, which is actually quite beautiful. And I'm just going to start off with a big, long, glorious stem that sort of crosses both colors that we're working on.
And this pen's fun because it really resonates on both the black and the white paper.
Yeah, it really does. And with all jelly rolls, the gentler touch that you have, the better result you will get. And I'm going to just give us a sort of a stem to work off of. Very thin branch, if you will. And though we've been teaching and practicing this tangle quite often, we haven't been doing it the way it was originally
It's morphed over
intended.
time.
Yeah, it's morphed over time, which is kind of fun to think about how we get used to what we get used to. So we're basically going to be drawing needles up and down the stem. And I'm going to just draw a little needle like that. And I like to go back and forth. And I'm going to be drawing them fairly sparsely spaced. And then I'm going to go back and kind of show you how they nestle in with one another. And you can keep your needles, if you will, relatively similarly sized, but certainly throwing in an extra long one or short one here and there adds to the playfulness. Again, just simple strokes. And then I'm going to sort of go back towards the bottom and start putting in some other angles. And you're going to want to tilt your little booklet as you go back and forth. Sometimes I'm adding a little curve, just so you know that there was no rulers used here. And you're going to find your own rhythm, of course, as you're doing this. Each time I'm going back to the beginning and adding a layer. You'll see now that I'm starting to have these needles that fall underneath the ones that I've already drawn. Back and forth I go. Enjoying how this ink looks on the dark and on the light. Even some needles that seem to grow downward. Each one adding some dimension to the overall stem. So this is the kind of thing where you can keep filling it in as much as you can, or perhaps you're enjoying some of the sparseness between the needles, but I just love how they layer, and
it's actually kind of like just drawing these free
little sticks.
Polyballs.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, as they start to intermingle with one another. Yeah, so we're going to start to craft a little vertigo garden, if you will.
Yeah, so our thought here was to sort of play a little bit with the idea that tangles sort of take on all these variations over time because of all the people that use them. build personality, and people try different ways here and there. And us too, here at Zentangle, we start to morph the way we draw things too. And this is kind of like, you know, going back to this original version and like having some appreciation for it and being like, oh yeah, I remember we used to do it like that, and how lovely it is. And now we're going to play with a bunch of different variations and maybe go pretty far outside the box, but just playing with vertigo in general.
Well, I love what you did here, Martha. I'm going to go to the other corner over here, but really you can go anywhere on the page. It doesn't really matter. We're just kind of flopping back and forth and playing with how these gray pens are pretty fun over the two different page colors. And I am going to draw a variation of vertigo, which is a subtle evolution of it. Nothing too crazy here, but I'm going to start from this corner here with a nice long stem, and then just kind of cap it off and aura down. And so I'm just gonna play with a slightly different sort of leaf shape here, and I'm gonna start with just a line, and then I'm just gonna aura both sides a little bit to create a little bit more of an actual needle shape here. And I'm gonna work my way up the stem with first these spaced out needles.
Space needles?
Space needles, yeah. I love this quote on this page because it really taps into this idea of the way we encourage folks to push through when they're drawing with the Zentangle method, to accept everything that happens on their page and try to figure out ways to embrace the strokes they're putting down, the lines they're putting down, and really find beauty in all of them and in different ways. And if things perhaps don't go exactly the way you wanted them, or they don't start off, exactly in the direction you were thinking to begin with, to embrace, the learning process and your journey. So I've come back down to the base, and I'm now going to draw a series of needles that go right behind the first layer. First drawing that stem and then auraing both sides. So it's very much a routine or a series of doing this and then that, but it gets kind of hidden that you're doing it that way. So I like that about this tangle.
Just by adding that center line, you do it a different way. It's a different rhythm than the other way. I kind of like doing them one after the other. You appreciate that rhythm.
So now I'm adding another needle in another space, going in a little bit of a different direction. And I did vary the length of the needles. Some of them going behind the ones that are already there. Again, that hollaba technique pops up. Just continuing to fill. By not working all one section at a time, I feel like you get this more organic feel to the way that they go. Vertigo is a great example of tangling what you see as opposed to drawing it. It's definitely a pattern that's broken down into very simple strokes, but the outcome is this fantastic, complex looking creation.
When I go back to this quote about life being the art of drawing without an eraser, I almost get kind of choked up to think like how many times I've had stuff happen and I had to just, take a deep breath and think, okay, I got this, how can we figure this out? How can we move forward? How can we not let this get us stuck? And how can we, once again find beauty somewhere within it all? And I think sometimes just that pause and that strength to power through something that you can't change, but maybe you can see it in a different way, really is something that's a tool, like a coping tool or a function of momentum, empowerment. So I think, Martha, did you go back and forth? I'm just working all one side at a time.
Well, it looks amazing. I actually do go back and forth, but maybe that's just
Yeah, I think you can. I was thinking, I was following along with you, and I was thinking how you can do it either way. So I think this one side is pretty filled up, but you can put in as many as you want. Maybe some more down here. All right, so once you have one side done, or perhaps you did both sides at the same time, but I did work this one side. Make sure whatever side you are working on that the ink is dry. And I'm gonna start working the other side just like I did this one. All right, and I am getting pretty far on the other side here. As you can see, it really loses sight of that sort of rhythmic approach I was taking and really just looks kind of really densely full. All right, so I'm pretty happy with how this is. I might add a couple of little ones up here. I love Zentangle because it's not really, doesn't have to look exactly like any particular botanical item. It's just sort of from like the imagination, right? I'm like, well, this references nature, but it's really just from my brain, and it's exactly how I wanted it. So
I think it's perfect.
I do too. All right, so this is sort of evolved vertigo. And now we're going to play around with drawing a few things in a vertigo approach. So here we go.
All right, so I'm still working in my journal upside down here. And I'm going to start again with a stem for our expanded vertigo garden, if you will. And I'm going to draw a stem, sort of hugging towards the other one that I drew over here. And a nice gentle arc. Like this. And then creating my stem. Like that. And this time I'm going to do my leaves or needles or growth off the side of the stem are going to be some gorgeous spirals. And I'm going to start right around here with my first spiral. this. And then each one from here on is going to be underneath this one. So even on the bottom here, I'm going to draw it underneath. And then one more here. It's a little smaller, like this. Then I'm going to grow them up, all up the right side here. So much of drawings in the Zentangle way is having that patience and that trust for what comes next. Not worrying about it, but appreciating that any anxiousness or uncertainty can be put aside, and just having faith that everything's going to turn out all right. So I'm kind of making them smaller as I go, layering them. Right there.
So fun.
Yeah, so right now I think I'm going to show you how we're going to embellish this side, and then we'll see if we want to add a few to the other side. And I'm going to start, and these gel pens are so great for this, and I'm going to start by weighting these spirals. I'm going to weight them as they attach to the stem. And I love this process. It's all about sculpting. And here's the first stem, and I'm going to weight all of the strokes that are sort of in this same direction, if you will. Again, sculpting and smoothing the lines as the fat ones join the thin ones. Weighting that main stroke as it attaches to the stem. And then all of the strokes that are in that direction. Such a fun process, because I find that I'll go through my tangle and then I look back and I want more, so I reassess, add some more. You can see it's already dramatically changing your gentle spiral strokes. So I think I'm going to add a few more on this side of my stem, but maybe not a complete row. I'd be a little playful with it and just have one come off of this side. Kind of working with another set of perspective for my strokes. So again, this one will be behind that one. Gradually making them a little smaller.
So this totally reminds me of fiddleheads, which I think they grow in all sorts of places, but they definitely grow here in New England, and they're like these really special things you see
right now,
but they grow wild, like on the edge of the woods, and some people have them in their yards, but they're definitely in the shade, and they just kind of sprout right up, and these like magical little spirals that come out of the ground, and people eat them, right? There's
a special time to pick them and eat them, but they unfold overnight, really. I mean,
right, and then they're gone, and then all of a sudden
they're ferns, yeah. So I'm doing the same, weighting my fiddleheads, I guess we'll call them now, as they attach to the stem and then weighting the strokes that face that. Weighting is one of those really fun tools because you get to go and say hello to a stroke you've already done and maybe make it a little more whatever it is you want it to be. You have that opportunity when you go in there and talk to it again.
That looks great, Martha.
When you learn something new, a new tangle or a new technique, it's fun to try it out with different tools. It just changes the whole thing right there. Using a micron pen, a thin pen, a fat pen. Maybe your spirals didn't have the spacing you intended. Well, when you go in there and weight it, you can kind of adjust that spacing, right? So, I mean, it's kind of beautiful as is, but we can always add a little bit more. I'm just going to add some dewdrops, I guess, up here.
Oh, nice.
Tiny little strokes, and you can carry that embellishment into these spaces that are left here under your spirals if you want, with a very light touch on your gel pen. Definitely like a little morning dew. There's not a lot of rules here. Your dewdrops can land wherever they want. And if you are so inclined, you could, I don't know, add a little what we call rounding, where your spiral edges touch. These little corners. It's good practice with a gel pen on different pressure you can put down. Being mindful of that ink so you can let it dry. You can, if you wish, add some little fandangos here and there. Probably some pretty cool creatures living there. What do you think?
I think so. That's so fun. Very fancy.
All right, so here we go. What's growing next?
I got one. All right, so we're gonna add another one. I am going to, it's gonna be a vertigo-like thing again, but I am going to start with the stem being this tangle we call sprinkle. And then I'm gonna grow something off of that. So I think I'm gonna draw my stem so it kind of goes behind a little bit of what Martha drew. So I wanna make sure that's dry. So I'm gonna start my stem to go right behind it, get some depth going in my garden here. And then at the top here, I'm gonna wanna kind of pull it around and create like a little bud there. Now I'm going to just kind of circle around this bud and come all the way around the stem. So I'm going to circle around, and my seam is a little bit, I'm just kind of working around that. So I have this nice little top here, and sprinkle goes like this. I'm going to move my book a little bit here, and to me it looks like ice cream if you went to go get ice cream, but I'm going to create a couple of sort of crescent moon shapes that attach onto this ball-like thing. Getting a little bit smaller each time.
like it to the top. And then if you want to put like some sort of a little antenna or something on the top there, I like that. So that's sprinkle. I'm gonna do one more. We're gonna add to this stem, but I'm gonna do one more for you guys so you can kind of see how I did that. So I think I'll do one that kind of goes behind here. So I'm gonna draw another one coming right behind this beautiful vertigo. Comes around, put a little bud on the top there. And if you can't do these stems all in one stroke, just pause and try to sort of take off and land from where you began. And I'll put my little ice cream layers on here. And you can add another in if you want. These ones are both kind of pointing downwards. They might have one that kind of points right upwards. Maybe we'll put one more over here. There we go. All right, so I am going to go back and add a little bit of a vertigo variation on this stem, and then I think I'll leave the other two for you to play with. So for this one, we're going to get even fatter with my little leaf-like shapes, and I'm going to do something kind of fun. So we're going to start with our stem in the middle, and then I'm going to create a much fatter leaf here. And then I'm going to put some, what do you call those, veins in them? Yeah. Whatever you want to call them. So you basically start with one V shape and then kind of carry them on. And you can make those as close together or as far apart as you want. Get different looks depending on how far away the auras are. So I'm going to start, much like I did the vertigo, kind of spacing them out. Again, being aware that the pens stay wet for just a little bit. Just take your time when you're going behind these other previously drawn. Perhaps they get a little shorter as you get closer to the top. I'm gonna start my way up again, this layer going in a slightly different direction. All right, so I'm gonna add another layer here. Again, as you add more layers, it gets a little more complex to see where they're going, but you just pick one place, put it in, and try to just focus on that one shape at a time. All right, so I have most of this fun sort of vertigo variation done. I'm gonna add a couple more to the top here. I'm trying to having them get a little shorter as it gets to the top. Again, it's just playful variations of the same idea, putting down some sort of a leaf or needle shape and then changing it up a little bit. Once you get all of your leaves in there, you might go back in and sort of redefine the lines that you started with, bring a little shape to them, adding love here and there. I like to go back and do that. Maybe one more up here, little one.
So we've given you a couple of different vertigo options here, and we've left you with a couple maybe extra sprinkles. And I think what Martha and I are going to do here is maybe add a little bit of shading and then send you guys on your way to fill this in more with other vertigo variations, or maybe do another series of all the ones we've already done, or maybe you like it kind of just the way it is, and all of those ideas are fine. I'm going to go in and add a little bit of graphite to a few of these just by, I'm just going to hug the stem over here with my graphite pencil. You'll see that the graphite lays differently on top of where the black is than it does where the white paper is, or where the ink, I guess, or no ink is. So you have this kind of interesting change up. It's a cool shadow. So this is something that you can just put on one side, or if you want to put it on both sides. I think I'm going to explore both sides. I like the way this looks. I'm really trying to be careful not to touch the stem because I like that white stem highlight I'm getting from there. So I'm just putting it as close as I can and make sure when I go back with my tortillon that I don't put it in there, because I like keeping on that white bit. It's a nice little shadow there.
Very nice.
And then I'm gonna go and shade this other variation that I did. I'm gonna shade this two different ways. I'm gonna do it similarly to how I did that last one, but I'm also going to go and put a shadow in sort of behind where Martha's tangle was to make hers pop, because I actually really wanna make that sort of come forward. So I'm almost making it like I'm shading the actual tangle here.
It's a cool technique to sort of take this. It's kind of, you have to be brave. You have to really decide that it's okay to put graphite all over all your beautiful ink that you just drew, but it's still there. It's just, it's playing a different role. It's like a supporting role behind.
Right. But at first I felt like these two tangles were competing with one another, so I wanted to kind of figure out a way to make that one sort of come forward. So it looks like that definitely, ooh, that helps a lot, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And I might do that a little bit over here too. Perfect, that's actually exactly what it needed. I was actually feeling a little bad that I had tangled too much next to this beautiful spirally thing going on. Oh wow, that's perfect. Yay!
That is awesome.
And then I'm gonna just add a little, a second layer of graphite along the stem line. Then if I wanted to add just a little bit of there we go. Martha, do you want to add a little shading to your vertigos?
So the more I look at this, the more I realize that there are a lot of tones already going on this composition. So I think I'm not going to stray too far from what Molly has done already. Just adding a little bit of graphite on either side of that white stem. She mentioned it's kind of important to not touch that stem, and I'm going through the motions and putting it on the dark down here. It's not visible in all different types of light, but you know, you saw that I turned my book upside down so that I can have good perspective.
Or right side up.
Or right side up. well, again, perspective. And just using the tortillon to spread the graphite on either side of our stem.
And graphite, we always say this, you can put it down in layers if you're kind of like, I don't know. Well, I love this little vertigo.
Yeah, and I think I like this
Exploration.
whatever this is, just as it is. I mean, adding that heavy hand underneath is actually just so complementary to both tangles. It's kind of really fun. So it's using the same idea with different line strokes and coming up with these different garden varieties.
Love that.
Yeah.
Well, we encourage you all to continue to add more, or maybe you're happy with what you have down there and explore maybe other vertigo variations.
Thanks for joining us.
See you soon.